Deep beneath the sands of Luxor, sealed inside a carved rock chamber for nearly 3,000 years, archaeologists uncovered something that stopped them in their tracks. 22 painted wooden coffins, stacked in careful rows, lids deliberately separated from their bases, and inside a ceramic jar, 8 papyri, some still bearing their original clay seals. The women buried here weren't royalty. They were singers, and nobody knows why they were hidden. If you're watching this for the first time, welcome. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we cover discoveries exactly like this one. Real, verified, and genuinely extraordinary. Drop a comment below telling us what you think is inside those sealed papyri. Let's get into it. The year was 2024. The location, the Asasif Necropolis on the west bank of the Nile, directly across the river from the ancient city of Luxor in southern Egypt. This stretch of desert has been studied by archaeologists for well over a century. Tombs here date back thousands of years, and most experts assumed that by now, the major surprises had already been found. They were wrong. A joint Egyptian archaeological mission, operating under the direction of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities and led by Dr. Zahi Hawass, one of the most recognizable figures in Egyptology, was conducting systematic excavations in the necropolis when their team broke through into a previously unknown chamber carved directly into the bedrock. What surprised experts wasn't just the discovery itself. It was the condition of what was inside, the number of coffins, and the identity, or rather, the shared identity, of those who had been buried there. This was not a royal tomb. There were no pharaohs here. Instead, the chamber appeared to be a collective burial space, carefully organized, deliberately sealed, and filled with the remains of women who shared a specific religious title. That detail alone was enough to put the Egyptological world on alert. Inside the chamber, archaeologists documented 22 wooden coffins, each decorated in vivid colors, deep blues, rich ochres, detailed hieroglyphic inscriptions covering nearly every surface. The coffins had been arranged in 10 horizontal rows, with lids deliberately removed from their bases and stacked separately. This was not accidental. The people who placed these coffins here were making a calculated decision to maximize the use of a limited space. They were organized, they were intentional, and they were keeping these women together. The coffins still contained mummified remains, a significant finding in itself. Many reburials from this period of Egyptian history, known as the Third Intermediate Period, which lasted roughly from 1070 to 664 BC, were found emptied or disturbed long ago. The fact that these remained largely undisturbed suggested the chamber had stayed sealed and unknown for close to 3,000 years. But the coffins were only part of the story. Set among them was a large ceramic jar. Inside it, carefully placed, were 8 papyri of varying sizes. Some were still sealed with their original clay stamps, meaning no one in the modern era, and quite possibly no one since the chamber was first sealed, has read what is written on them. Restoration and translation work is ongoing, and the full contents remain unknown at the time of this video. Dr. Hawass noted publicly that urgent conservation work would be required due to the fragile state of the timber. The coffins are extraordinarily decorated and rich in detail, but calling them perfectly intact would be an overstatement. The wood itself has suffered the effects of 3 millennia underground. Across coffin after coffin, the same title appears in the hieroglyphic inscriptions, Singers of Amun, Singer of Amun. This was not a casual honorific. In ancient Egypt, particularly during the Third Intermediate Period, the priesthood of Amun held enormous religious and political power, especially in the Theban region, which is modern-day Luxor. Amun was among the most powerful deities in the entire Egyptian pantheon, and the temples at Karnak, located just across the river from this discovery, were the center of his worship. The singers of Amun were women, and occasionally men, who performed ritual music, chanting, and ceremonial song during temple liturgies, major religious festivals, and sacred rites dedicated to Amun. This was not entertainment. It was theology and sound. These performers were considered essential participants in divine worship, and the title itself carried social prestige. The fact that so many women bearing this same title were buried together in one collective chamber points strongly toward an organized religious institution, a structured group of women who lived, served, and apparently were preserved together in death. Researchers believe this cache dates to the Third Intermediate Period, a historically complex era when political authority in Egypt was divided and the priesthood of Ammonius wielded unprecedented influence in the south of the country. Why were these women moved here? That question sits at the heart of ongoing excavation and debate. The current leading interpretation among researchers is that these coffins were not originally buried in this chamber. The arrangement, lids separated from bases, coffins stacked in rows to maximize space, suggests a deliberate relocation, not a primary burial. Somewhere, there are original tombs that belong to these women. The mission is actively working to identify those locations. The most widely supported theory is that the coffins were moved during a period of instability to protect them from tomb robbers, from political unrest, or from some threat that is no longer clearly documented in the historical record. This kind of reburial was not unheard of in ancient Egypt. During certain periods, priests and officials relocated royal mummies for exactly this reason, gathering them together in hidden caches for safekeeping. The most famous example of this practice is the Deir el-Bahari cache, discovered in the 1870s, which contained dozens of royal mummies moved from their original tombs by priests during the late New Kingdom period. What makes the Asasif discovery different is that these were not royals. They were religious functionaries, singers, and the deliberate care taken in preserving and relocating their remains suggests they were held in high regard by whoever organized this cache. As for the 8 sealed papyri, that is where the deepest mystery lies. They could contain administrative records, hymns, funerary texts, or personal documents. They could tell us the names of these women, the dates of their deaths, or the reasons for this unusual collective burial. Or they could contain something no one has yet predicted. Until the restoration work is complete and the translations are published, honest researchers will not speculate beyond what the physical evidence supports. Discoveries like this shift our understanding in ways that are difficult to overstate. The Third Intermediate Period is, by the standards of Egyptology, a relatively understudied era. Political fragmentation, divided rulership, and the rising power of the Ammonius priesthood created a complex society that is not fully reflected in the historical record available to us today. A collective burial of singers of Ammonius, organized, protected, and sealed for nearly 3,000 years, is a rare direct window into that world. It tells us something about how religious institutions functioned, how women within those institutions were valued, and what lengths ancient Egyptians were willing to go to in order to protect the dead they considered important. Once the papyri are translated, researchers believe the historical picture could sharpen considerably. We may learn names, dates, and institutional details about the clergy of Ammonius that simply are not documented anywhere else. Here is what we genuinely do not know yet. Why these specific women, in this specific chamber, sealed and hidden together for 3,000 years. The papyri have not been opened. The original tombs have not been found. The full story has not been told. So here's the question I want you to sit with and answer in the comments below. If you could ask those sealed papyri one question, what would it be? If this video gave you something to think about, please like it. It genuinely helps this kind of content reach more people. Share it with someone who loves history or archaeology. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the kind of story we tell here. Real discoveries, honest reporting, no exaggeration needed. See you in the next one.